Welcome, everyone. This session is all about graduate school. My name is Audra Lavoie. I am an alumni career advisor with the University of Rhode Island Foundation and Alumni Engagement. The big things we're going to learn today are about just these prep questions in your head to ask yourself about why do I want to look at graduate school? Then we're going to review the typical process. So it's not every school. One of the themes you're going to hear me say a lot is it depends, and this is when I would talk to the school directly. We're going to touch upon competition because that's one of the big questions I get asked. And then we're going to also touch upon potential funding options. This will move fast, but at all times, feel free to reach out to me with specific questions, and I'll have my contact information too. So what to ask myself? I think when looking at graduate school, one of the big things is starting to have that self-assessment that says, why do I want to do this? And a lot of people are really looking at it as either I'm not sure, this is my stopgap, I'm just really not sure what to do next, or I'm scared, gosh, the economy has shifted and I'm not sure, so let me keep investing in my education and kind of keep things moving towards something. Other times it really has to do directly with a job. It's a field you're already in and you know that you need it as your next step, or it's something where you're looking at all these job descriptions and you keep seeing, gee, I'm just shy. They keep asking for that master's, or they keep asking for that PhD for that specific position I'm interested in. So having time to really reflect why I'm looking at graduate school. When it comes to really the part on, is this the right career move? I always keep saying, keep going back to job descriptions. If you're not sure if this is required, if you're not sure, is this the thing that's going to set me out in front of the competition? Look at the job descriptions and then have those one-on-one conversations with employers. LinkedIn is my number one resource. I use it all the time. I use it to find people to be mentors. I use it to find guest speakers, always looking at URI alumni. You can use it the same way to say, I'm interested in this type of job or this company. Let me find a URI alum who works there and have a one-on-one conversation and ask their industry insight if this will help set me apart. Also want you to look at, is this the right time for you to attend graduate school? What does your life look like? This is a life change, is investing in graduate school. So do I have the time? Every time I say yes to something, it means I say no to another thing. Am I okay with that? Is this a good time? And for some people, it's, if I don't do it now, when will I? Other times this is part of a plan, but I have a longer timeline to get there. Resource that I have here, I really like, and it doesn't take everything into effect. It doesn't take all the different parts, but it's a really good quick glance to say, okay, at my education level today and at the earning I'm at now, what is that lifetime trajectory? Now let me take how much I would pay to go to graduate school and how long I'd be out of workforce in theory to do it, and then what my earning would be on the outside. And it gives you a comparison of financially, is it worth it? And you also put in your age. So it's a good resource I like. The affording it, I think this is a thing to reflect on is, am I taking a total pause? Am I doing it part-time? Do I have a 1-year accelerated program? Am I in a 2, 4, 6-year path towards a higher degree? Am I doing a few months and getting a certificate? Does a certificate meet my needs? And then, of course, that emotional mental check for yourself. So the admissions process. First big part, deadlines. Before we even start it, knowing what we're building up towards is a good check-in. Pretty much everyone is going to say fall is an easy start date, so that August, September. But then there are other programs that might have rolling admissions. They might admit in the spring, they might admit in the summer. Some people might choose to start by taking a class before they formally go in as a matriculating student. So depending on the program you're looking at, those deadlines change. And that's a really good information to have ahead of time because it's going to impact all the other components of your packet to apply to school. Typically, it consists of these things listed here. and we'll touch upon each of them. So personal statements and essays, it's like undergraduate. We ask you questions. Big thing I like people to think about is, look at it from a school perspective. They want to know that somebody is going to go into their program. They're going to be a good student. They're going to invest in the program. They're going to finish it, and they're going to then work in the field. And I think all those are good to have in the back of your head, because how's the school evaluating you? How is the school themselves evaluated? And they're evaluated based off of the success of people graduating and the success of people going into the field. A lot of times there's this piece that might be up in the air that talks about length. Like, this is a common question people ask: how long should this essay or statement be? Many times they are giving you a little bit of information. Other times they might give you something big that says, until you feel complete, write as long as you need to. In general, if that's the phrase or it's not stated, we recommend 2 pages, double spaced, 500 to 700 words typically. Yes, we've seen ones that are longer. Those are usually things that might have to do with law school, or if you're looking into a program that is heavy on writing. But as a general rule, 2 pages, double spaced. Test scores. So this is another part why it's really good to know what that deadline is, because we're reverse engineering. And with the testing, what is being asked of you, a tip is to give yourself a little wiggle room. Like, if I don't get the score I want enough time to retake a test. One of our pro tips is that you can ask for a fee waiver. So if you are financially in need, all of these tests have some sort of fee attached to them, which is anywhere from that $200 to $300, depending on the test itself. Now, there is a trend that is just beginning, or still at its early phase, which is some schools are making these optional based on your GPA. Others are making it optional, just saying, we haven't seen the correlation. We haven't seen the connection between test scores and success. So be on the lookout for that. But if it is required, you want to make sure you know when, and that you have enough time to study and you have enough time to retake it if that's what you want. Another pro tip in this area: if you are currently a student, one of our recommendations is take it now. Your GRE is good for a while, and taking it now when you're already in testing mode and school mode, you may have that higher score today. And obviously, when I say today, I mean not when you're in the middle of finals or midterms, but at a time where you're still in practice for studying, but you don't have other big course demands. Letters of recommendation. Recommend reaching out at least a month in advance, remembering that depending on who you're asking, that's really going to impact their schedule. So a lot of times we look to our previous professors. Makes total sense. If I'm going back to school and I'm investing in education, then looking and asking somebody who knows what my abilities, my skills, and my behavior when in an education setting makes total sense. But then we have to remember those professors have midterm times and final times too. They have the beginning of the semester, times where they're going to be extra busy. So we want to keep in mind the schedule of the people we're asking. Also, if I'm looking in a certain industry, if I'm making that career change, if I've been out of school for a while and now I'm returning, who is a relevant contact that works in the industry you want to be educated in? So you're investing in additional education. Have you volunteered? Do you already work in this field and you're just looking for a colleague or somebody who is doing the job you want to be doing to write you a letter of recommendation? Most programs will ask for about 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. If you have the ability, if you have the different people that would be great, then I also recommend asking for an additional one. Just in case something happens, it's always good to have that backup plan. And then transcripts. Most of the time, this is all done online at this point. Definitely want to give yourself time for it to be processed. a lot of times it's going to be sent directly to the school you're applying to. So having that information ahead of time. And then the resume. So the resume is definitely, that's one of the conversations we had earlier this week. So we'll have that on our website, on the Alumni Career Services website. We have it on the undergraduate CCEE site for resume modules. And that's a great resource for you, as well as reaching out and asking for some feedback or asking somebody in the industry. Big thing when thinking about, I'm using this resume to apply to a school, is I want to make sure that if you did research, whether that was courses in it, or whether that was a thesis you've already done, or a capstone, or special projects, I want to talk about these. It is a very important, very relevant spot on your resume when applying to school. Same thing with if there was any student involvement, clubs, organizations, these are all good, as well as volunteering and actual paid experience. Application fees, they vary, but another tip is you can ask for a fee waiver. And then the interviews, it depends on the program you're applying to. Some programs do have interviews. You'll see that particularly common if it's a smaller program, or if you're going to be doing research. If you're going to be doing research, they kind of want to see who might you be doing research with, what faculty member may you want to work with, where are your interests. So in an interview, just like if you were interviewing for a job, you want to show that you have done your personal research about the institution. You know it. If you are looking to do research as part of your advanced degree, then looking at those faculty members and seeing what they're doing, who you think you might be doing research with, who interests you, and how can you complement the work that they're doing. With any interview, you want to follow up, you want to say thank you, and you want to also know when that interview is concluding, what's next, what is their timeline, and what other information that they need from you. So this is super general, but just to get your mind in a place to recognize applying to school costs money. So with your undergraduate, it costs, anywhere from $50 to $250. When looking at this process, the application fee, and I wrote in $75 just as an average. The GRE itself, when you take the test, it can automatically go to 4 schools, but if I need additional, then that's going to cost me. Transcripts, same thing, if I'm having those emailed. So this is where if I look at it all together, I might want to go back, and if I'm in need, ask for that fee waiver from the institution if I'm asking it to apply, or from GRE, and they'll have a process for that too. All right, competition. Big question I get asked is, people are looking at programs, they're really excited, but they're concerned that they're not as competitive as they want to be. So this might be based off of reading what the requirements are, or what the average student in that program has. So that might be an average GRE score, an average GPA, something that they're telling you ahead of time. The big thing there's so many different programs, and sometimes that's part of what drives which program is most attractive to you. Is there one that is going to educate you the way you want, which is like the #1 priority? Is there one that you feel that you would be a good fit, as in it's the right environment for you, but also you will meet those qualifications? So that might impact the schools you're looking at. For somebody who says, I just want to be as competitive as possible, how can I change? How can I be more competitive? A lot of times people will ask about retaking courses. So there might be a course that they failed in, or a course that they had a low score in. How can I retake this to increase my GPA? And that is a great conversation to have, because if you retake the course, like let's say you had a C and you want to get you want to bump up your GPA, and if you get a B or an A, that would help. I would do a little math. I would have these conversations to say, if I retake this one course, how much will that shift my GPA? Now, if I had an F and I go to an A, I would expect a big shift in your GPA. But if I had a B and I want to go to an A, I wouldn't expect that to change too much. So looking financially and time-wise as if I retake a course, how many courses and how much impact will that have on my GPA? Same thing with the standardized test. Now, when we talk about competition, we're throwing this idea out of competition. I want to be as competitive as possible. I just want to get into a good program. A great conversation to have is with the programs you're looking at. So with the graduate school and the degree granting program to understand how they weigh the different components. There is not one rule. And this is the first thing I said at the beginning. Everything kind of really becomes individualized. So if I can have that one-on-one conversation and find out a little bit more about the institution, do they care about the standardized tests? Does this have a high rank with them? Or is it the GPA? Or am I that career changer and I've been out of school and they're really looking at the recommendations in my experience? I don't know that, and I don't see that on a website. So having a conversation directly with the program you're interested in to find out how can you be as competitive as possible will save you a lot of guesswork and save you a lot of time. Sometimes people do go and say, I just want to show that I've already invested in this field. And so that I might be doing internships, whether or not they're in school, externships, they might be doing volunteer work. They're trying to show the connection and the commitment and the investment that they've already made in that field. Other times a person might begin as a non-matriculating student. And this is a great conversation to have again with the school itself. So you might say, I understand I might not be as competitive, or maybe I applied and I was put on a wait list. Can I start by taking a course? Will that be able to be transferred? Will that help them understand that you really are investing in their school and in the field itself? Can I take those courses outside of being an enrolled matriculating student? And then the informational interview. So I already said this, but definitely something I want to stress is having that personal contact will give you a much better feel for the school itself. And then determining your path. So this is when we're going to go into how are we going to pay for this? Graduate school now there's so many different ways and so many different programs, and everything's individual. But there's a cost. It's not the same as undergraduate. I think undergraduate typically has a lot more varied fees that you don't need to have if you are in a graduate program. So that can be a big help. A lot of times too, this is in time where somebody that I speak to might be asking about schools abroad. So a lot of times people are interested in, I want some international experience. How do I get it? Now we start going into visas and work authorizations, and that can be tricky. But if I go to school abroad and I'm in that program and I can be there, study there, and work, that can give me the experience, as well as, it potentially could cost less. Of course, you're going to have other costs, so you have to see what's possible, but it can be an opportunity that people really look for to be abroad. If I'm looking and I'm going to be doing research, if I'm going from that master's to that PhD, there are times, and some of the things we'll talk about, where this is paid for. And so you're not having to pay that $9,000 or that $200,000. Really depends on the programs you're looking at. And this is where I think that calculator works as just a good quick view into what might this cost me. So potential funding, loans, just like undergraduate. And you want to file FAFSA. Now, the expectation management here, when you apply for FAFSA, don't expect the grants and the free money this time around. Typically what they're doing is they're just telling you the loans, but you want to apply for FAFSA so that you can see what loans are available to me and are these the lower interest loans. So it is worth doing the process just as you did as an undergraduate. Assistantships. I love assistantships. I went to graduate school and I was somebody who my undergraduate degree is from URI. I left thinking I would never return to school again. And then a few years in the field, and I realized a graduate program, a graduate degree would really help me out. And so at that point I went back, and I wish I had this information. Like, I just kind of found a program, applied, and went through the process. Assistantships can be a great way of building experience and saving money at the same time. So the assistantships typically fall into 3 different categories. One is a graduate assistant, the other is a teaching assistant, and then the last one, a research assistant. If I'm looking in those heavy science areas, if I'm going to be doing research assistant usually makes the most sense. Teaching assistant, if you've been to school, you probably have had a TA. That teaching assistant is somebody who is being paid to do what they do. The graduate assistant, this really could be in any program. So for example, in CCEE at URI, so in career services, we've had graduate assistants who are in totally different programs. Sometimes they are in the college student personnel program. They've also been in engineering and they've been in business. There's some skill set that they can bring and work through CCE or work for CCE and support their program. So assistantships are definitely worth looking at. They typically start in the fall. They may be part-time or full-time. Usually full-time would mean 20 hours a week. You do get paid for the position. You have some basic health care, and then you have a tuition waiver. So it'll go institution by institution, but these are great things to look at. These are great things to ask in an informational interview. This is a big thing I want to star, is that oftentimes you don't see this information on a website. So it is a conversation ahead of time to say, do you have assistantships? And then how would I even go about getting them? So some schools will tell you, you should state it on your essay at the beginning. Some will say you have to be accepted into the program, and then we'll see. So you want to find that out ahead of time. And the assistantships, I would want to ask the graduate school itself, and I would want to ask the degree granting college. So both of those, because they tend to have their own little pockets. Scholarships, fellowships, these things are same thing. I would want to ask the graduate school itself to say, is there some other stuff that's available? Fellowships oftentimes are run through a company. You can look online and see what's available out there for them. I would also ask the graduate school itself, because they should know people who have come through in the past and what businesses or companies or programs they've been connected to. Education awards. So AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, military, they all have an educational benefit piece. So being familiar with those, if you've done them, or if you're thinking this may be a great way to get the money that I need to support myself for college. And they all have different amounts of awards. Specialized programs, these ones are tricky, and this is a lot of conversation. So once again, talk to the grad school, talk to career services. There is a unique program that I've talked to people about, which is specifically for someone with an undergraduate degree in STEM who wants to pursue a master's in education. So very specific. That is a tough one to find. You can do your Google search, but also having the conversations with people who work in the field. And then tuition reimbursement. Some employers do offer tuition reimbursement, and that's another conversation where you want to talk to human resources and get a few more details. Does that mean that they do it as they pay ahead of time, or is it truly reimbursement? Is there a certain amount towards a semester? Are there certain programs that they are specifically going to support? So a conversation to have ahead of time, find out what the process is, and that can be a terrific opportunity to be working and have some more investment in your education. Whew, we did great. So that was really quick. Upcoming events, we post everything on our site now, but one is a great one that's coming up is with Bridget Griffith. So she has an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's in microbiology, and she is now in the process of finishing her PhD. She's been working in research in the pandemic, and she's worked with the World Health Organization. So a really interesting person. And then entrepreneurship, totally different topic, but we kick off our series, and that's also going to be that same week on May 12th, and that topic will be ideas. We're also going to talk about in the upcoming weeks on that one in the series about testing ideas and resources that are available. Questions, feel free to reach out to us. Once again, I'm an alumni career advisor. I have a counterpart, Karen. And then another great resource, if you're looking at an MBA program, is Lisa Lancelotta. She is wonderful to work with and a terrific resource, and always happy to talk to people.